First of all, I don't understand how overdosing on Valium could be considered a danger to others. I mean, I used to think it was one solid line, you know, danger to self or others. But no, that's two separate things. Danger to self, danger to others. I don't understand how after 100 milligrams of Valium, they thought I could actually harm someone else, unless I was gonna like drool on them in their sleep until they drown or something. And it's not like I ever even wanted to hurt somebody. I'm a pacifist, for fuck's sake. Mostly a pacifist. Have you ever been in a mosh pit? Oh, these things are fantastic. For those of you that don't know, it's like this maelstrom of aggression with these strange, esoteric, unspoken rules. Like, if someone gets knocked down, you help them up. How crazy is that? You're trying to knock them down and help them up. And look at me, I'm tiny. Of course I got my ass knocked down. And some big bastard with his mask on his face that looked like he was from beyond the Thunderdome picked me up off my feet. And I thought he was going to put me on his shoulders so we could like cosplay Master Blaster and be like, who run Bartertown? But no, he just like picked me up and set me on my feet. And then he looked at me like, oh, are you all right? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm all right. And he goes, boom, hits me again. And I fly into the crowd, which there's like a circle of people all with their hands out that makes like padded walls for the crazy fuckers that are inside. And what their job is really to just keep you from falling over. Or if you want out, they help you out. And then they pat you on the back and congratulate you for being a moron. And what they're not supposed to do is throw an elbow from the sidelines, which is what some guy did to me. He threw an elbow, and I saw it coming, and I ducked back, and it just caught the bridge of my nose a little bit, but mostly my glasses, and it broke. And it brought forth this childhood fight and flight thing in me, which is my way of saying, you know, sucker punch and run. And so he hit me, and I ducked back, and I came forward and hit him twice, and he crumpled. And I panicked. So I picked up my glasses and got the hell out of there. And I knew if he got up before I was gone, he was going to destroy me. I don't know how to fight. So I talked to some people that are a little more proficient at mosh pit etiquette than I am, and they assure me that getting knocked the fuck out is the required response one should give when throwing an elbow from the sidelines. So you know, when in Rome. But still. Well, mostly a pacifist. But the other checkbox, that danger to self, that one is wildly accurate. I've been a danger to myself my entire life. And not just I am my own worst enemy, I make stupid decisions and fuck my life up kind of thing. But in the way that they meant it, which is like I wanted to harm myself for most of my life. And it started as an early teen. And my mother noticed this pattern that every once in a while, instead of being this energetic, jovial, hyperactive, fun, funny, intelligent kid that she would have to yell at to get inside at curfew, and I still never did, I would just be this lethargic kid that would just stay in bed for days at a time and either sleep that entire time or not sleep for days. And I couldn't really do anything. And she noticed this pattern. Eventually, after a couple of years, she took me in to see a psychiatrist. And he hears my symptoms and stuff. This is in the early 90s. And he goes, well, you have the SAD. Like, no shit, doc. I got the SAD. No. Seasonal affectiveness disorder. It's this new thing that we're trying to, figure out. We notice it in most people that are in more northern areas where the sun goes away, and blah, blah, blah. We all know it now, but at the time, it wasn't really all that understood. And the only really effective way to treat it is a light box. Like I'm a fucking pot plant or something, and they grow lights. But they were like $400 in the early 90s. That was rent. Single mother, 2.5 kids. It's because my older brother was kind of in and out, so he only counts half. She couldn't afford that, so I just had to suck it up. I just had to deal with it. And I did for a long time. And the way I dealt with that was during the summer when I was energetic and fun. I would do as much as I possibly could. It was like stockpiling happiness and reasons to live. I became a professional juggler at 16, and I traveled all over California at Renaissance fairs, drank probably a little too much, okay, a lot too much, and I became a judge for jousting tournaments. And I did as much as I possibly could every summer so that when the winter came around, I had this stockpile of reasons to live. And that got me through every winter for a long, long time. Until the summer of 2016. When it was supposed to be my time to be happy, my time to have fun and spend time with my kids and my wife, my family, my friends. This thing, it didn't leave like it was supposed to. It lasted all winter long and then stayed. And it stole that summer from me. It stole every opportunity I had to be happy. And when that winter came, I had nothing left. I didn't have my stockpile of happiness. And I knew that I wasn't going to make it. I was flooded with this misguided altruism. And I just knew that if I took myself out of the equation, my family would be better off. I was doing this for them. They would have more energy for each other. They would have more time. They would have more food. They would have more oxygen even. They would have more everything that I was draining them from. So this pressure started building up. It's almost this outside pressure. This pressure that I had felt most of my life, this desire to just end my life. But this time it was different. There's something different about it. You know, it's like when you're on a date, right? And you're kind of fantasizing about kissing somebody, and there's that moment, you know, at the end of the date, maybe when you're saying goodbye, and you kind of lock eyes, and you're like, oh no, this might actually happen. Oh shit, this is real this time. And you're flooded with all those emotions like, oh shit. Well, it's kind of like that, only, you know, not fun. And that's what it was like. It was like, oh no, this is real this time. This is serious. This is dangerous. And I wanted to tell my wife so bad to say, I need you to take me into a hospital right now. Because this is real. But she was literally on the kitchen floor with her dying dog in her lap. And I couldn't be like, hey, you know what he's doing right now? I kind of want to do the same thing. And that lucky fucker, all he has to do is wait. You know, I have to like do something about it. So I couldn't go to her and answer a phone. It's fine, don't worry about that. So I couldn't ask her for help in that time. I couldn't take her away from this thing. So I found an old bottle of Valium, prescription of mine from a long time ago. And I took a couple pills. Yeah, it didn't lessen the pressure at all. So I took a few more, and a few more, and a few more, and a few more. I'm not sure exactly how much. I'm guessing 100 milligrams, really. And the pressure stopped. It went away. And I was flooded with a sense of calm. Because it's a fucking lot of Valium, for one thing. And then I thought, oh shit, that's a lot of fucking Valium. I'm doing the same thing that I was scared of doing, just in a different way. And that pissed me off, because if I'm going to take myself out, I want to do it my fucking way, not on accident, on pills. That's bullshit. I had a plan for this. So I got my wife up, and she, of course, freaked out a little bit, and took me down to the mental facility here in North Fresno, and they didn't have any beds. There was no room for me. There's so many people in this community that are in such dire straits that they don't have room for us all. And then they found out how much I had taken, and they're like, oh shit, okay, we're not equipped for that shit. We're gonna call an ambulance and get him to the ER right now. Oh, okay, so they take me to the ER in the ambulance, and I gotta tell you, the ER on a 5150 is bullshit. Oh my God, it fucking sucks. They put me in a bed in the hallway for 2 days.
Whoa.
Nobody came up to talk to me other than to say lift my arm so they can take my blood pressure. They didn't tell me what my blood pressure was. They took my temperature, didn't tell me what my temperature was. I would like pass out and come to a lot, because again, that's a fucking lot of Valium. And it stays with you apparently like 100 hours or so. And when I would come to, and I'd be hungry, and I'd look, and my food would be cold and stale on the ground. Not even on one of them fucking rolling trays, just seriously on the floor right there. The nurse wouldn't even let my wife in to see me. So I was just stuck there alone. The worst time of my life. And nobody to talk to me for days. The bed opened up eventually. And so again, by ambulance, they transfer me and I go to the mental facility. And a nurse, a really cute nurse, takes me into the intake room. And she starts asking me the typical questions like, do you know what your name is? It's like, well, yeah, of course I do. I know what my name is. I gave her my real name, not this, bullshit pseudonym that I go by here. But my real name, I mean, I wanted her to know that I wasn't that kind of crazy. Do you know where you are? Not exactly. I mean, I know I was in St. Agnes, and I was in an ambulance, and I know I wasn't in there that long, so I'm thinking north central Fresno-ish somewhere. She's like, yeah, that's fine. We just want to make sure you're not on the moon. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm in Fresno. I mean, might as well be the fucking moon, but yeah, I'm in Fresno. That's good. Okay. Do you want to hurt yourself? Yeah, that's still there. Do you have a plan on how to do it? Of course I have a plan. Who doesn't have a plan on how to end their life? Most people? Most people don't have a plan. That just seems wildly unprepared. I mean, what if that comes up? What if they want to do it and they just like, oh, I don't know what to do. I mean, you gotta be prepared. I have like 4 plans. They can borrow one of mine if they want. It's like, it's not healthy thought. We're gonna go ahead and admit you now. Good fucking call. Now we're gonna have to check your body for any kind of open wounds or sores. We're gonna have a male nurse do that if that's okay with you. Well, I've never fantasized about a male nurse, but what the hell, I'll give it a go. Yeah, all right. She goes out, comes back a few moments later. Actually, we're understaffed. It's gonna have to be a female nurse, but there's gonna be 2 of us. Is that gonna be okay? Now we're talking. Let's do this. So she takes me to another room, and she starts filling with one of the hospital gowns. And as she's unfolding it, she's like, "Okay, go ahead and take your clothes off, and we'll have this. Have you put this on?" And she turns to hand it to me, and I'm already like this, naked. And ta-da! Usually we have you take your shirt off and then hand this to you. You put that on, you take your pants off. You're gonna see it all anyway, right? I guess so. Here you go. And I look behind me. And then this even cuter nurse back there is checking my ass out. So I give her a little wink, and she blushed. That was pretty awesome. So she checks me over, no open wounds. Ladies, I know you like that kind of thing. So cleared, I get to go find my room. We exit, and on the left there's like a nurse's station, and straight ahead there's like windows with couches and love seats and chairs and tables with like board games and a TV and stuff. So I figure that's like the communal room for free time or whatever. And we turn to the right, and there's this big hospital-sized hallway, and on the right there's the doors that go to, I think, the men's dorms with like 6 beds each or something. And on the left there's the women's. But my door is the first one on the left, right? And it's kind of closed a little bit. And she opens it up, and I look in, and there's a hallway, almost the length of this room here. And about halfway down, there's a door that's like half size. That it looks like it's made from like a thick foam with like a vinyl cover on it or something, with this big magnetic strip that holds it closed. And I peek in, and there's a toilet on one side and a sink on the other. And that's fucking weird for a bathroom. I mean, it's just like this open top. I mean, good ventilation, I guess, but weird. And so I looked ahead, and there's this big fuck-off door that looks like they stole it from a submarine, and all it's missing is the big wheel to lock me in, and these giant hinges and bolts to close it. And my first thought was, that's a supervillain's door. That's awesome. They think I'm a supervillain. Oh, wait. Maybe that's the room they give you when they check that second box, that danger to others. And then I thought, or maybe that's just the fucking bed that opened up, and that's what they get. So that's obviously what it was, because, you know, again, a pacifist, mostly. And so I go to lay down in this surprisingly comfortable bed, and it's probably comfortable because of the, you know, shit bed I had at the hospital, but still, it was nice and relaxing. And I lay there for a few moments, and it was quiet outside. And silence, when you have that kind of depression and anxiety, is not great, because all that does is give room for the internal thoughts to get loud. And that's what it was like. And outside, I looked calm and serene, but on the inside, it was like this epic battle between my self-flagellation and my self-preservation, and I was losing. And I gotta tell you, that kind of distress has this powerful, visceral, immediate kind of effect on the bowels. And I gotta tell you, I was so happy that that half door that covered the bathroom was the only area around with people, because the sounds and smells that came out of me in that bathroom that night can only be described as vengeful. It was horrible. But, you know, after that, so drained, pun intended, I was able to sleep. And unfortunately, the sleep, like the sleep I'd had for the past 6 months, was only a couple hours, which was meant broken and plagued with nightmares, just like every other night, all summer long. So the next morning, when it was time to get out of bed, I couldn't. I had no energy to get out of bed. And depression is like, it's like a gravity well. Right? It's like being stuck on the surface of Jupiter. The more depressed you get, the more pressure and gravity is holding you down, the more energy it takes to escape. And I had no energy. I had nothing. Now the energy that one can use to get out of bed can come from anywhere. It can come from the right touch from the right person. It can come from the right word at the right time. Come from a funny movie. Come from a great book. What really helps, more than anything, one simple line is, I love you, and I'm here for you when you're ready. That's it, because that's all you can do, is be there when they're ready. Because no matter what you do, you can't fix somebody in that state. All you can do is give them the opportunity to use the energy you give them. But the problem with depression and using the energy is depression attacks the very thing that you need to get out of it. The very thing you need to spark that energy. It attacks the will to do so. It's like an autoimmune disorder of the ego. And that's why it sucks so bad, because you know all you have to do is decide to get out of bed. All you have to do is decide to be happy. Just like an alcoholic only has to decide not to drink. Yeah, you fucking figure that out. You solve a lot of problems. But you can't just do that. You can't just decide. But that simple line, I love you, I'm here when you're ready. When I can light the spark, I can create like an arc reactor out of that fucking line and put it in my chest and get my ass out of bed. But I didn't have that line that day. What I did have was a nurse that said, time for breakfast. And I was fucking starving. So that got me out of bed that morning. And I went and had breakfast, and it was a good breakfast. Again, probably because the food before was cold and stale, but this was good. And I had, not fun, but I had a pleasant time sitting with the other, I was going to say inmates, patients. I mean, we were locked in, but, you know, patients. And after breakfast was art time. And there was a little room, and I shit you not, people were doing macrame. It's so fucking cliche, but they were. And I don't do that kind of art. My art's putting words on paper. I'm an author. And so I read a book. There was, you know, some shelves with books and stuff. And I read some sci-fi. That's my favorite. Well, mostly my favorite. My absolute favorite, though, is The Hobbit. When I was a kid, that was the first book I ever got. And I read it cover to cover at least a dozen times that first year I had it, just over and over again. So this book, it's a simple story that evokes strong emotions in me. So please, 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 don't fucking bring up those Peter Jackson movies. God, you fucking ruined it. I had such high hopes after Lord of the Rings. I mean, come on, that was a fucking beautiful series of movies. But no, The Hobbit fucking sucked. Mostly because he made a love story between an elf and a dwarf, and there's only one fucking love story in Middle Earth between an elf and a dwarf, and that's Gimli and Legolas, and that I am Legolas took him to the Undying Lands. He took him home with him. That's fucking love. anyway, after art time, I got to see a psychiatrist. For the first time since I was a teenager, I got to see a professional that can deal with my bullshit. And I had been looking for months, well, by me, I see my wife, had been looking for months for me to see a psychiatrist. But everyone was either not taking new patients, or they were so far out, 9, 10, 11 months out, that there was no hope for me to actually see anybody in time. Imagine if I had actually got to see somebody, a professional, not just my general practitioner, who was way out of his depth. He was trying, but he was out of his depth. I mean, he put me on Zoloft. Okay, that's a good first step, but the problem with Zoloft is it can increase suicidal ideation. How fucked up is that? Oh, you want to kill yourself? Here you go. That's like saying, oh, you want something to cry about? Here. No, it's fucked up. And also, it can make someone with bipolar 2 cycle faster. Yeah. So instead of days of depressed and days of okay and days of depressed, it was within the same day. Fucking miserable, great, in the same fucking day. So my wife didn't know what the hell she was going to walk into a room any given moment. I could be energetic and doing a bunch of shit or sobbing on the ground. And the wonderful thing about this psychiatrist is he finally asked this question in a way that I finally understood. You know, it was the typical stuff to start with. Like, do you have delusions of grandeur? No, not really. Do you have periods where you think you're bulletproof? Like you can do anything, you do a bunch of dangerous shit? Well, no, not so much periods, as that's really my whole life. I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm up or down, I do crazy shit. I was a professional juggler for a long time and kind of an amateur acrobat. I just had a very keen sense of my own abilities. So I would do, you know, stupid, crazy shit, but I knew I could do it. I didn't overestimate what I could do, so I didn't think that's what he was asking. So then he asked, you know, do you have periods where you don't sleep but you feel like you need to sleep? I was like, no, I feel like I need to sleep. That's what your brain needs. It needs to rest. I mean, to be healthy and happy, you need to sleep. Oh, okay. You know, do you ever go on huge spending sprees? Nah, not really. Kept asking me questions, and something I said triggered some idea in his mind. And he went back to that sleep question. He said, no, you say you have insomnia. And what I really want to know is, when you can't sleep, do you feel tired? That's a different question to me. And sometimes, yeah, sometimes when I can't sleep for 2 or 3 days, I wouldn't fuck with me that time. If I can't sleep for 2 or 3 days, sometimes I'm a wreck. I can't focus, I can't concentrate. But sometimes, I'm fine. 2 or 3 days and I'm good. My friends were fucking baffled that, you know, they come up to a party and I'm like awake the whole goddamn time. He's like, that's what we've been asking you. That's what we want to know. That's mania. We're going to call it submania because you don't have all these other things too. So you're bipolar too. So eventually they changed my medications, and as you see, it worked. But at the time I was still in the hospital, so let's go back to that. And after the psychiatrist, and it was gym class, gym class, like in high school, no, gym time. I know it's different from school because I had more freedom in the mental facility. And they had a typical exercise equipment, basketball court, stuff like that. And then the next time was group therapy, and that was one of my favorite times because we got to sit in this like horseshoe shape with people sitting around it and a facilitator, and he told us all we can pick whatever song we want, and if he could find it, he was going to play it. And the first person picked the Slayer song, so we became friends. Because that mosh pit that I was in, a Slayer concert. Fuck yeah. But then it was like a benign pop song, country song, hip hop song, country song, blah, blah, blah. And it got to me. And I love music. I love it so very much. I listen to music constantly when I write, especially the band Tool. That's my favorite band ever. I have every album they have on a constant loop that I listen to constantly when I wrote my book, Soil Man. For 15 years, that's the only music I listened to while I wrote that book. That may be part of why I'm fucked up. But I picked Tool, and I picked one of my favorite songs, of the 30 favorite songs of theirs. It's called Parabola, and I picked that because of a line that is particularly important to me. And the line is, "We are eternal. All this pain is an illusion." And I love that line because it is so very, very wrong. Pain isn't an illusion. Pain is real. Pain is a physical thing that happens in your brain. Everything that we think and feel and touch and smell has a physical action in the brain. When you feel happy, that's just not some esoteric thing in space that your mind does. No, you produce serotonin that fiddles around and gets locked into a receptor. And if it's malformed, or the receptor is malformed, or you don't produce enough of it, then you can't be happy. That's just the way it works. So that's what selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors do, is they make this serotonin stick around longer, so you have more opportunity for it to make a connection, and you have a bigger chance of being happy. But everything is physical. There's no difference between physical illness and mental illness. It's all physical. Everything is physical illness. And the fact that we separate it is fucked up, because then that's where those thoughts are that all you have to do is decide. Just like if you have a sprained ankle, all you have to do is decide to fucking walk it off. Bullshit. That shit hurts. It's real. And I was like, wow, yeah. That's a physical thing that goes on in my head. So if it's a physical thing, I can think of it kind of like muscles, right? Which means I can strain them. That's what I've been doing for months. I've been straining my emotional muscles, basically. And for 20 years, I've been training that muscle to hate myself. And when you practice that much, you get really fucking good at it. So I spent 20 years exercising the part of my brain that says hate yourself. So I needed to exercise that in a different way. I needed to reflect on my emotions in a different direction and slowly get myself into a better mood. And just like exercise, it doesn't take a lot to start. It just takes a little bit of success, just a little bit. And let that encourage you for the next step. Make small, achievable goals. But if you need exercise, you also need rest, which I wasn't getting. So I needed to sleep. Holy fuck, I needed to sleep. Needed to exercise, needed to sleep. And these were powerful thoughts for me. Because it kind of meant I wasn't so fucked up, right? I had actual physical problems. It wasn't just my will. It's physical issues. And that night, I slept. Not great, but better than I had. Still nightmares, but not as bad. I woke up the next morning a little more rested. a little more hope. And the day went on kind of as every day goes. So it started with breakfast, and breakfast was great. Again. And I got to go to art time, read again. Got to see the psychiatrist. And he says, you know, your 72 hours are up. But you spent most of that time in the hospital, in the ER. And we really haven't had a lot of time to observe you. So would you mind staying a little longer? I was like, yeah, I think that's a good call. I'm not quite ready to go on. I still have all these dangerous thoughts. It's like, okay, good. Or you can stay here for a while if you need. Okay. So that gave me some relief too. I kind of thought they were just going to kick me out. And this place was helping. I had kind of epiphany the day before. So then after that, it was gym time again. And in the gym, I noticed there was something off in the corner that wasn't there the day before. I could swear it wasn't there the day before. It's almost like in the movies where the magic bookstore shows up for the main character to go and get this magic artifact that they learn some important lesson, and they go to take it back, and the bookstore's gone. It was kind of like that, and it was over in the corner, and I approached it like a feral cat, all the food, just waiting for fucking somebody to catch me. I get all the way there, and I touch it, and it's real. It's a ping pong table. Oh, I love ping pong. I'm fucking good at ping pong. I mean, I'm basically good at kind of all sports things. Except for basketball, I'm fucking 5'4". Volleyball, again. The tall sports, not great. But everything else, I was really good. And I was particularly good in elementary school. Now, when I was a kid, we moved around a lot. I went to probably 15, 16 different schools in elementary school, like 6 in the 6th grade alone. Right? So I was constantly the new kid, and I was always the smallest kid. So when it came time for gym, or PE, I was almost always the last to get picked. I was new and tiny. And that made me happy every goddamn time, because the closer the last I was picked, that meant the more they underestimate me. And when it came time to play, I would destroy them. And it was fucking fun every time. But then I would confound them, because we'd get in the class, and I'd get the answers right. I'd always raise my hand and be like the teacher's pet. They're like, okay, you're a fucking nerd, and you're kicking us in the ass at dodgeball? What the fuck is going on? And by the time they get used to it, I would move on to the next school and get to do it again. So I came to identify with this as this competent person. Just at whatever I tried. If I just put a little bit of effort into it, I got to be really good. And so when I saw this ping pong table, I was flooded with this sense of, this is me. I get to be myself right here, because this is ping pong. This is one of my games. So I pick up the paddle and the ball, and I start just like tapping it. And I start, doing little tricks with it and stuff. Catching one in the back, right hand, And that was pretty fun. And the nurse came up and said, hey, you want to play? I was like, yeah, sure. All right, this guy had no idea what he was in for. So I decided to start with this easy serve. Evil, not yet. Although they did give me a super villain door. So I give him this nice, easy serve. He hits it back, nice, easy return. And I go to swing, and I missed. Fucking completely. It's not like I blinked or sneezed, or there's an earthquake. No, I saw it right here. Just swung the paddle, and it just wasn't there. The ball wasn't where I thought it was. My perception of reality wasn't real. It was in that moment that I realized how close to death I actually became. I was. Because this thing that I identified with, this physical abilities that I had were gone. And it was because of something I had done to myself. I almost killed myself. But I realized if my perceptions on that ball were off, what else is off? What other perceptions of mine are off? Because everything in this world, I don't see it as it actually is. Nobody does. We see it as we perceive it through our sight and our ears and nose and mouth and touch, it's all translated through our brain. And if our perceptions are off, our sense of reality is off. What else was off? If everything that comes through to me is filtered through my own self-hatred, then that means every act of love that comes through becomes an act of hate. Every kind touch that comes through becomes sarcastic. And then I thought, if I look back, the times that I'm down, it becomes like this state-dependent memory, right? Like when you're in college and you drink while you study, so if you drink while you take the test, you remember all this shit. But it's kind of like that, only again, not as fun. So when you're depressed, you remember all the other times you felt like that, right? So when you do something stupid and you're embarrassed and you're in bed thinking about that, your brain goes, oh, I remember that. I remember that feeling. Here's all the other times where we felt like that. So, oh, fucking thank you. I really need to reflect on all that right now. But I realized whenever I'm down, that's all I can see is this shit. This life of shit. And if that's all that's ever existed, that's all that ever could exist. So I would have no hope. But the other end of that was when I'm up, when I'm happy, and I look back, that's all I see again. It's just all the times where I was happy, and I forget that there were pits. So I think that's all that's ever going to be. And so when I dive again, I'm like, what the fuck? Everything was great, and now here I am. I just can't decide to be happy. I have all these wonderful things, and I hit bottom again. What I need to do is somehow widen this past peripheral. I need to go, instead of just seeing where I am, I need to see where I've been. I need to see that when I'm as low as I possibly can be, there were times where I was up. So that when I'm low, I know there's going to be up times again, because it's all just a wave for everybody. Some people, only go down to like, a 3 or so, and maybe up to like an 8 or so. Me, I'm like a 1 and a 10. But it's still just a wave, which means all I got to do is ride it out, because it's just going to go up again. It's going to go down again. It always does. Life's like that. So I just got to surf this wave, and everything will be okay. That was mind-boggling to me at the time. But everything could be okay. And so with these new thoughts, this mind is really physical. Just looking at things as a past peripheral that I need to widen. Depression as this gravity well that I just needed the energy and the spark to use it. I realized that I didn't so much have to gather energy throughout the summer and stockpile happiness so that I can survive the winter. With these new ideas, I had ammunition. I can fucking fight it. So that night, I slept. I really slept. More than that, I dreamt. I had fantastic dreams. I had ideas to write again. I've been writing my entire life. I've never stopped thinking of stories. That book, Soil Man, that took me 15 years to write because I never stopped. I never gave up. I put words on the page every time I could. For the past year, I had nothing. No story ideas. And that was devastating to me. But I had ideas that morning. And I felt good. I felt like myself. Still not great, but good. And again, breakfast. And it was time to see the psychiatrist again. He's like, you look like you're feeling a little better. You know what? I am. I am. Any thoughts of self-harm? No. Actually, no. Well, are you ready to go home? Oh, man. Oh, I don't know. Am I ready? You know what? Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm ready to go. So I go call my wife, and we live up in the mountains, so it's going to take like an hour for her to come get me. So I'm all, excited. I say goodbye to all my friends. I give them my email address and stuff. My wife gets there, get outside, we hug and cry and all that shit. She asks, "Did you eat lunch?" No, I was kind of too excited, and then I was like coming home. "Well, are you hungry?" Yeah, pretty hungry. Which is a good thing, because anxiety for months at a time is not great for the appetite. I lost 30 pounds that summer. I don't recommend that as a diet, but it was effective. So she was pretty happy to hear I was hungry. She said, "Well, what do you want?" Wow, that's a big question. What do I want? I have 4 of the most amazing kids in the world. I have a 20-year-old son that is just kicking ass in school. He's going to transfer to UC Davis next semester to be a large animal vet. I got a 13-year-old daughter that is the most amazing artist I've ever seen. She's already doing commissioned pieces. I have a 10-year-old daughter that is the most emotionally intelligent being I've ever met. When we watch movies with scary monsters, she sympathizes with the monster. Like, what had to happen to him for him to be so scared? What the fuck? I have a 4-year-old son that is crazy smart. He's reading and doing simple arithmetic. He hasn't even started school yet. He's gonna fucking blow their mind. They're the most amazing friends anyone could possibly hope for. Dozens, not like most people, they have, 3 or 4 or 5. Dozens of people that I would trust with my life, that I can show up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a bag in hand, and they would just offer me the couch, no questions asked. People that are genetic engineers and amazing artists and writers. What could I possibly want that I didn't already have? Fucking tater tots. Man, I wanted some tater tots. I wanted to go to Mad Duck right then and there and give me some tater tots. And a beer.